Hello and welcome to News Central TV. I am Adebola Adedba. The headlines. PDP governors charge President Tinubu to rise up. Access Holdings names Bolaji Agbede as acting CEO. Senegal opposition keeps up pressure ahead of new protest. And details shortly. The People's Democratic Party's Governors Forum has decried the rising cost of living in Nigeria, saying the nation is sliding down the road of Venezuela's economic turmoil under President Bola Tinubu's watch. Chairman of the forum and Governor of Bauchi State, Bahala Mohammed, stated this after reading the communique of a meeting of the forum held at Oyo State Governor's Lodge in Abuja on Monday. The meeting reviewed the state of the nation and noted the hardship being faced by Nigerians as a result of the economic and security challenges facing the nation. The forum decried a fall in value of the naira and requested the monetary and fiscal authorities to find appropriate solutions.
Yes, we have been working together with the federal government since the inception of this administration, and the rising cost of living is not only under the purview of the federal government, it is their responsibility. We have been partnering even as opposition to make sure that we don't bring any distraction. But certainly the monetary policies and the economic policies rest here. And we can see that we know the majority of Nigerians live in the states. And so we are doing so much across party lines on a bipartisan basis within the Nigerian Government Forum, within the National Economic Council, to make sure that we cushion the effect of this, some of these policies that have far-reaching consequences on our people. Like ensuring that we reach out to our people and of course have some food reserve in a manner that will have provide some support to our people.
And moving on to another story, Access Holdings PLC has announced the appointment of Ms. Bolaji Agbede as the acting Group Chief Executive Officer. Now, this follows the death of its former Group Chief Executive Officer, Herbert Wigwe. Wigwe died in a helicopter crash alongside his wife, son, and a former chairman of the Nigeria Exchange Group, Abimbola Ogunbanjo, on Friday. A statement made by the company's board of directors and dated February 12, 2024, stated that the appointment was subject to the approval of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Let's now tell you what we know about Bolaji Agbede. Ms. Agbede joined Access Bank in 2003 as Assistant General Manager and was responsible for managing the bank's portfolio of chemical trading companies. She has nearly 3 decades of professional experience cutting across banking and business consultancy services. She served in different roles at the bank, including Head Group Human Resource between 2010 and 2022, before she was appointed the company's founding executive director, business support in 2022, a role she held until her new appointment. She holds a bachelor's degree in mathematics and statistics from the University of Lagos and a master's of business administration degree from Cranfield University, UK in 2002. She's also a member of the Chartered Institute of Management UK and the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria. And joining me on the news to talk about this is Mukhtar Mohammed, CEO, Asher Investment. Good morning. Glad to have you join me.
Morning.
Well, looking at the new CEO and her qualifications, do you think it's a square peg in a square hole?
Well, I think so, because again, if you look at his qualification, and I think he has been with them since 2003, where this process started, the growth of Access Bank actually started from 2003, where they have metamorphosed into the big bank that they are today. So I think she knows the process. She is the oldest executive director, and then she moved from there to becoming the business development director of the holding company. We must always remember that the holding company is different from Access Bank itself. Access Bank is under the holding company. The holding company will have other businesses like the pension fund administrator, which they just acquired some minutes ago. So a month ago, they are also acquiring other subsidiary of other companies outside the shop is company. They are also into payment system. So Access Holding is a big entity which Access Bank is under. So we must always get that clear. And she has been working with the late CEO in building that holding company. And like your reports rightly said, that holding company is just business. I think it's about going to the second year now that we have Access Holding. So it's not a very old company. But again, she was one of the founding executive directors.
Do you think in any way the death of Wigwe will likely, affect the expansion of Access Holdings?
Well, I don't think so, but it depends on who was doing the negotiation. It was not just Wigwe that was doing it, even if he really was the key driver. And most of these expansion, especially in acquisition, are almost completed. I don't unless there's any new one they are really working on, and then that is when we'll now begin to know if really it's they are trying to slow down on that. But as it stands now, I don't see them slowing down. And if there's any negotiation they are into before now, I think they will continue with it. But if there is none, if there is if he has finished all that he was negotiating, or there are some that she's not ready to negotiate again, then we'll begin to say, okay, maybe the strategy has changed. But I don't think the strategy has changed because, like I said, she's been with them from 2013 now.
Okay, let's take a moment to look once again at the portfolio of Ms. Bolaji Agbede, the new, chief executive for Access Holdings. What do you think would be expectations from her upon her resumption of duties?
Well, it's a big shoe. It's a very big shoe to fill. And you must know that the late CEO was a monument, if I'm permitted to use that word. So it's a big shoe to fill. A lot is expected of her, especially driving the expansion growth, like you said in your report. Also, giving shareholders value, and that is what Albert Wigwe was always talking about, trying to drive expansion towards giving shareholders value. I think those two are key to seeing how she comes out with a vision or will continue to. But again, we must also remember that there's a board. There's a board. It's not just all about her. There's a board that she will be working with, and that board has been the board that she has been working with up to now. So it could be a smooth transition for her because I'm sure she has been part and parcel of every decision because she's a member of the Access Holding Board.
Well, a little more about the late Herbert Wigwe. Yes, we understand the bank he co-found, has corporate governance, and that's why we have Agbede taking over. But about the other structures, for other ventures he has, do you think such structures exist?
Wigwe is a visionary leader. If you looked at some of his posts, even before his demise, one of the last posts he posted, talking about living a life of purpose, not which I always say, not a life of pension, but a life of purpose. He kept driving the growth of every of his establishment, and I'm sure you're talking about the educational sector. And if you look at that video that was trending some days ago, he made mention telling the community that this university belongs to you people. And my own is to drive it to make sure that it becomes world class, that it be proud of. And I'm sure that is what Wigwe is all about. He has true succession plan. You could see the swift nature that Access Bank have responded within 48 hours to get a new CEO. That's to tell you the kind of succession plans that they have. And I think a man of vision never dies. His vision continue to live after he's gone. All you need to look, you need to look at with Disney of this world, the Ford Motor of this world. And that was even when you look at JB Morgan, one of the largest financial institutions in the world. And I think that's what the late Albert Bigwe was trying to build. Even if you talk about educational institution, The only challenge we will have is that maybe he didn't stay so long to midwife the growth of the university to a very laudable height because of the dreams that he has for the investing. But for the assets holding, you could see that the structures are there to move forward. But for the investing, we'll wait and see what happens there. But I think it will still be moving forward because you remember a week before now, there were publications that said, why are you collecting fee in dollars? And he said, look, I'm not collecting fee in dollars from Nigerian students. I'm looking at the investee as an investee that will earn effects for this economy, attract every African in any part of the world, and also thinking of attracting people that are even non-African. He was looking at the investee to be a global player in the educational sector, just like the way he looks at Access Bank to be a global player in the financial sector. I think there should be a succession plan because you cannot run an institution like that on your own. That's what I feel. And the coming days will unveil most of this thing. But I can confidently say that he was a visionary leader, and a true visionary leader is the man that thinks of successions.
All right, thank you so much for your time on the news, Mukhtar Mohammed.
My pleasure, Fab. Thank you.
And now back to the conversation on the PDP Governors Forum, calling on the president to rise up to the challenge, facing Nigeria. And joining me to talk about this is a public affairs analyst, Nelson Ekujimi. Good morning, Nelson. Glad to have you join me. Nelson, good morning. Are you there? Okay, seems we lost connection with Nelson. We'll try to connect with him in the course of the news bulletin. But moving on from that story, let's now bring you another conversation regarding prominent Nigerians, including President Bola Tinubu, and some state governors have joined other citizens to mourn the group chief executive officer of Access Holdings PLC, Mr. Herbert Wigwe, who died in a chopper crash in the United States on Friday. They described the deceased as a brilliant banker. Under whose leadership, the bank grew in leaps and bounds. Wigwe, his wife, Doreen, son, Chizi, and a former group chairman of the Nigerian Exchange Group, Abimbola Ogunbanjo, lost their lives in the helicopter crash, which occurred near a border town between California and Nevada. Now, Access was ranked 65th when Wigwe and his co-founder bought it, but the bank was reportedly one of the top 4 by the time he died. Under his leadership, Wigwe, the Access Bank, which had years earlier acquired Intercontinental Bank, also bought Diamond Bank. Earlier, we were joined by Abiodun Kayode Ali, economist and senior manager, PwC Nigeria.
Herbert Wigwe is someone who is known as a visionary leader, right? Considering his achievements and what he has contributed to society, not only to the banking world, but also as far as leadership is concerned, right? Like you said at your opening remarks, looking at what he has done with respect to moving Access Bank from its position at that point in time to making it among one of the big 5 banks, right? Despite the fact that other banks have been in existence prior to it. I think that's one laudable achievement. Then also looking at making it one of the banks with the largest assets, following the acquisition of Diamond Bank. I think these are remarkable achievements. I mean, given the age of Herbert Wigwe when he achieved all this, right? So he's someone who has made a lot of impact. Also, not to forget some of the things he did. You remember during the COVID period, the COVID coalition against COVID-19, Access Bank himself, along with Aliko Dangote, coming out to make contributions to make the lives of Nigerians better during that period, considering the lockdown, by distributing food items, test kits, and other equipment that were useful during that period. So his contributions are actually remarkable, and it's something is going to be sorely missed by all Nigerians at this point in time.
Nigeria's House of Representatives Committee on Crude Oil Theft has inspected the vessel suspected to be used for oil theft. The vessel was arrested by operatives of Tantita Security Outfit, with responsibility of fighting oil theft in the Niger Delta region. The inspection was carried out when the committee visited the Oprazo in Baramutu Kingdom of Delta State. The committee also commended the operatives for standing up to the menace that has dragged down Nigeria's economy. They also paid a courtesy call on the chief government, Owezide Ekpemopolo, also known as Tom Polo. Earlier, a political analyst, Kelechi Deka, joined us on the news to talk about this.
To tell you without any fear of contradiction, what Tantita is doing here is a quite commendable job. We as a house commended him. The committee has commended him, and we must see to the needful. Whatever is due for him has to be given.
My mandate is equally to protect the critical national infrastructure, especially the oil installation in Delta State. We've been in partnership with Tantita, and the arrest was made by a joint team from Tantita and my sector. And presently, the ship is under the custody of my sector. So we will be evacuating the arrested crew members to Abuja in the next 2 or 3 days. The First Intelligence Agency will come and pick them up, and then they'll continue from there.
For on-the-spot assessment of the vessel arrested by Tantita Group of Companies Limited. And we have seen the vessels, they are 2 in number. We have been able to interview the captain, and even they showed us some of the inmates, some of the people that were caught in the act. And we have interviewed them, and they have accepted culpable of the allegation against them, which the security is going to probe into it more. For some time now, Nigeria as a people in NPC, we've not had it so good like this. Before now, our barrel per day was less than a million barrel per day. But as today, you can see that we are now making about 1,000 plus. And of course, at the National Assembly, 1 million plus. We're having 1 million plus. And our budgeted crude estimate per day is 1,800,000, 1.8. So, but by the grace of God, the way Tantita is working is going to be realized.
And earlier, a political analyst, Kelechi Deka, joined us on the news to talk about this.
Oil theft in Nigeria is something we've had with us for over 30 years now. I mean, it's something we've been struggling with over the years. You know, a new government will come, will make all the necessary noise, and, you know, but within a few months or so, we'll keep on having the same problem we've been having. And I mean, in a situation whereby we are still unable to meet our OPEC quota of 1.8 million barrels per day, we are still struggling between 1.3 and 1.4, sometimes 1.2. Even there was a time, sometime last year, we couldn't even meet 1 million barrels per day. And this is a country that's in economic crisis. This is a country that the government is struggling for revenue, and knowing that petroleum and brings in close to 90% of government revenue, ordinarily is something government should have taken seriously, something that should have been addressed over time.
The head of the military regime in Niger Republic, Abdulrahman Giani, has talked about the possible creation of a common currency with Burkina Faso and Mali, calling it a step out of colonization. He spoke in an interview on Nigerian national television. Giani has not given details on the possible circulation of a future currency. The statement comes 2 weeks after the withdrawal of Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger from the Economic Community of West African States.
La monnaie est une étape de sortie de cette colonisation. Les États de l'Alliance du Sahel ont des experts et au moment opportun, comme je l'ai dit, Inch'Allah, nous déciderons. Et nous allons décider, Inch'Allah. La monnaie, c'est un signe de souveraineté. Nous sommes engagés dans un processus de recouvrement de notre souveraineté totale. Il n'est plus question que nos États soient la vache à lait de la France. La France nous a spolié plus de 107 ans. Nous devons trouver ensemble quels sont les mécanismes qui nous permettent de renforcer les échanges au sein de notre alliance, que ce soit des échanges monétaires et tout autre type d'échange pour que cette zone de l'alliance des États du Sahel soit effectivement, comme nous l'avons souhaité, une zone de prospérité et non une zone d'insécurité.
You're live with News Central TV. Let's take a short break. Stay with us. Thank you for staying tuned. The UK Minister for Business and Trade, Kemi Badenoch, has visited the first British independent school in West Africa, a Charterhouse School. She notes that it was part of the UK's government's commitment to supporting Nigeria's desire to offer high-quality education at home. News Central's Bettina Unweli reports.
Founded in 1611, Charterhouse has been home to preeminent thinkers, creators, writers, and leaders. This rich history and the school's underlying values all feed into the essence of Charterhouse Lagos. Recent talks between the UK and Nigeria have helped to remove restrictions to transactional education investments in Nigeria, worth around £50 million, enabling UK higher education institutions to build partnerships with their Nigerian counterparts.
I don't think it is sustainable for everybody to believe that they can send their children to the UK. Well, we have children from all around the world coming to the UK, and we have started these franchise schools like Charterhouse, like Dulwich, in the Middle East, in Asia, and this is the biggest endeavor in all of West Africa. I have never seen a site as big as this. It's bigger than the ones that I've heard of in the Middle East and in Asia, and I think it is a testament to the fact that people want to invest in Nigeria. They want a good investment environment in Nigeria, but they also want to invest in the things that Nigerians want as well, which is an excellent education for their children.
The school, set to open its doors come September 2024, aims to deliver a strong academic curriculum with day and boarding facilities, with a focus on intra and extracurricular activities, including sports, arts, and science.
It is the first British branded school. Yes, there are some great schools here. What we're also doing differently, we have world-class facilities, we have world-class international teachers, we have an amazing teacher training program. So what we're doing is bringing all of the elements that you would expect in an international school and offering them here in Lagos. And that is the first time anyone has done it. You'll find it in so many other cities across the world, but not Nigeria.
While in Lagos, Minister Badenoch will meet with other key businesses as well as the British Development Finance Institution and the British International Investment to discuss trade and investment opportunities for businesses on both sides. In Lagos, for News Central, Bettina Unwili.
Old students of Unity schools in Nigeria have called on the federal government to invest more in the training of teachers with digital skills to help them catch up with growing technological advancement in the educational sector. They said these will greatly improve learning outcomes for students across the country and called on government to improve the current state Unity schools, saying they are fast losing their standards and foundational principles. Our correspondent, Idong Joseph, has details.
The earliest attempt to establish Unity schools was in 1966, when 3 federal government colleges were established in the eastern, northern and midwestern regions to foster national unity and cohesion by bringing pupils from different parts of the country together through education. However, with about 110 unity schools across the country, there are concerns that some of these schools are fast losing their standards and the fundamental principles for which they were established.
The federal government of Nigeria used taxpayers' money to train South Africans, to train Zimbabweans, Namibians, basically, to prepare them and their capacity for their own independence. Okay, so these were not only just local schools, they were international schools. All right?
There were some policies in place that had eroded the policies that were more of a uniting factor. And finally, very sadly, I noticed that the values and the ethics that we all shared were really no longer there.
All students of these unity schools, during a visit to the Ministry of Education in Abuja, pledged their commitment to support efforts aimed at restoring the glory of unity schools in their bids to give back to the society.
The visit also brought the training of teachers to the front burner. The old students are saying investing in teachers, especially in their digital skills, will have tremendous impact on students.
I mean, you used to see teachers smartly dressed, well presented. The ethos and values, the ethics of teaching need to also come back. And then for those of them who have been there, to please, retraining is also very critical.
I think what we need to do is to start with your request to revamp the USOSA desk, and then we take it to the next level to have a kind of inter-organizational committee that would work closely to bring about the things that we want to see in the unity schools.
While access to public education, teachers' training, and also the tools needed to enhance teaching outcome are major concerns affecting Nigeria's educational sector. These old students say a partnership with government can help solve these challenges. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
And coming up, South Africa to deploy 2,900 soldiers to aid fight against rebels in DR Congo. We'll bring you details of these and more shortly. Stay with us. In South Africa, a nation known for its rich history of resistance and struggle, and a powerful storm of voices has risen once again. And over the weekend, protesters gathered at Goethe Institute in Johannesburg to protest against the support of Israel by Germany and alleged repressive actions targeting artists and cultural workers at the institute. News Central's Bongani Sisiba was at a protest and files in this report.
As they marched through the streets, their voices echoed in unison, demanding justice, solidarity, and a call for change. These protesters say they are standing united against German support for Israel and the suppression of artistic freedom.
So it is important to keep showing up like today to embassies of that are supporting the genocide or supporting Israel, to all institutions like the Goethe Institute who have a direct influence on supporters of Palestine and protesters against the genocide. We need to keep showing up and applying that pressure until the measures that the ICJ recommend are put in place and a ceasefire is attained.
They say when art is silenced, the pulse of a society weakens and the essence of humanity is threatened. South Africans at the Goethe Institute, this is known as a bastion of culture and creativity. However, it has now become a symbol of disappointment and betrayal in their eyes.
The Goethe Institute is really the cultural arm of the German state. They have offices throughout the world. They work with cultural activists in many countries. And in a number of countries, they have censored, they have silenced, they have cancelled talks, they've withdrawn funding to people who are critical of the state of Israel, an apartheid state, a genocidal state. So we are demonstrating here largely cultural activists, artists, musicians, social movement activists, and we are telling Goethe Institute that they are not independent, that what they are doing is being complicit in the genocide of Palestinians.
From the young ones to the old, the message is clear. They will not shy away from standing up for what they believe is right. And a powerful message for Israel.
My message to Israel is, there's no excuse for what you're doing, and it's wrong and it's bad, and you should never be bad like that. It's just too far.
Together, these protesters are paving a path forward, and in their hearts, they bear the struggle of Palestine as they fight for the freedom of artistic expression and demand a world where justice and human rights prevail.
Germany advocates for a feminist foreign policy, but their actions are contrary to what they advocate for. They talk about justice for all and human rights for all, but they're limiting it when it comes to the plight of Palestinians and the genocide that is happening currently in Gaza.
As messages of solidarity continues to resonate across every corner of the globe, for Palestinians, echoes of hope keeps fading away. In Johannesburg, for News Central, Bongani Siziba.
We head to Senegal, where Senegalese civil society and opposition kept up pressure on President Macky Sall ahead of opposition protests on Tuesday against his move to delay a presidential election. Sall's decision to push back the February 25 vote plunged Senegal into crisis that has seen 3 dead amid clashes between protesters and the police. The Asuno Election Collective, which includes some 40 civil, religious and professional groups, has called for a rally in Dakar on Tuesday at 15:00 GMT. Now, protests pitting youths against the security forces have threatened Senegal's reputation as a haven of stability in West Africa, as the region is roiled by coups and unrest. The organizers of Tuesday's march said they had received no information from the authorities as to whether it would be banned.
Venons tout à l'heure d'observer une minute de silence et de prière à l'endroit des jeunes qui ont été tués lors des récentes manifestations. La plateforme condamne cette répression et exige aussi la libération des détenus, des personnes qui ont été arrêtées lors de ces manifestations. Nous appelons tous les Sénégalais à se mobiliser. Nous appelons tous les Sénégalais à venir pacifiquement, de manière pacifique, participer à cette marche silencieuse pour dire non au report des élections, pour dire non au prolongement du mandat du président Macky Sall et pour dire oui au respect du calendrier électoral.
Si les Sénégalais sortent en masse, alors personne n'aura les moyens de les brimer et ce sera une procession, une marche pacifique comme nous la souhaitons.
South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has ordered the deployment of 2,900 soldiers to aid in the fight against armed rebel groups in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, the troops will be posted as part of the Southern African Mission in DR Congo, which was approved by the regional bloc in May last year. Malawi and Tanzania will also contribute troops to the mission. The mission is replacing the East African Regional Force, which left DR Congo last December after the government deemed it ineffective. The announcement comes amid a resurgence of fighting that has seen tens of thousands displaced, adding to the nearly 7 million who have been forced from their homes in DR Congo because of multiple conflicts. In Central Africa, the Congo authorities stepped up security outside embassies and UN buildings after they were targeted by protesters, accusing the West of supporting M23 rebels in the East. On Saturday, embassy and United Nations vehicles were targeted by demonstrators. The head of the UN's MONUSCO peacekeeping mission, Bentao Keita, said on X, formerly Twitter, that several of its vehicles had been set ablaze. Protests broke out last week in the capital, Kinshasa, and the southern city of Lubumbashi. On Friday, dozens of youths demonstrated outside the embassies of France and Britain, and earlier in the week in front of the U.S. Embassy. According to the government, it has decided to strengthen the security arrangements in the different embassies, as well as the premises of MONUSCO, even as it strongly condemns the acts of violence. And still in South Africa, where the country's leading opposition party said on Monday it asked authorities to charge the country's deputy president with corruption, upping pressure on the ruling party ahead of general elections. The deputy president, Paul Mashatile, has 4 months been at the center of media investigations, alleging he benefited from luxury properties made available to him by his son-in-law and others in return for help securing tenders and other favors. A spokesman for Mashatile, who took up his current post in March 2023 after being appointed by President Ramaphosa, did not immediately reply to a request for comment. He has previously denied the allegations, which predate his appointment as second in command and revolve around his time in provincial and national government. Let's also tell you that the South African Jewish community has slammed South African Justice Minister Ronald Lamola and the African National Congress government for denying anti-Semitism in South Africa and urged them to do more to eliminate it. Now, this follows Ronald Lamola's denial on BBC program that there was any anti-Semitism in South Africa, despite statements to the contrary from the Jewish community. Disagreeing with Lamola, chairperson of the South African Jewish Board of Deputies, Karen Minnaar, claimed that in 2023, anti-Semitic occurrences in South Africa had reached their greatest level since the board began gathering statistics in 1993. The Jewish community also staged a protest outside the Ministry of Justice on Monday to hand over a memorandum of demands.
We're here to deliver a memorandum to Minister Lamola, who on 2 occasions has said that there is no anti-Semitism in South Africa. We know that that is incorrect. We know that in the last few months, anti-Semitism has been raised by 600% in this country. There have been serious incidents of assault, other incidents that have been reported to the police, and we cannot understand why the minister is not acknowledging that there is anti-Semitism in this country. We had a meeting last year in December with President Ramaphosa. We explained to him, we discussed exactly the anti-Semitism in this country. The president then put out a media statement. We are perplexed as to why this information never got to Minister Lamola. In our memorandum, we have asked very, very clearly, we would like an acknowledgement that there is anti-Semitism. We would like the minister to study the actual issues so that he is aware of them. And very importantly, we would like the Ministry of Justice to take this as seriously as they take all other types of hate in this country.
The United States says it is working on a hostage deal between Israel and Hamas, which would bring an immediate and sustained period of calm to Gaza for at least 6 weeks. U.S. President Joe Biden made this known during a joint press conference with Jordan's King Abdullah II at the White House.
As the King and I discussed today, the United States is working on a hostage deal between Israel and Hamas, which would bring an immediate and sustained period of calm to Gaza for at least 6 weeks, which we could then take the time to build something more enduring. Over the past month, I've had calls with Prime Minister Netanyahu, as well as the leaders of Egypt and Qatar, to push this forward.
One person has been killed and 5 others wounded in a shooting at New York City subway station just ahead of the busy rush hour on Monday. Now, the gunfire broke out on an elevated train platform in the Bronx at around 4:30 p.m. local time, when stations throughout the city are filled with kids coming from school and many workers are beginning their evening commute. According to authorities, a man in his 30s was killed while others sustained serious injuries. Police weren't immediately able to provide details on what happened, but said a hunt was on for the shooter, who fled the scene. The Solomon Islands pro-China leader has detailed a re-election campaign based on a Look North strategy that will deepen security and economic ties with Beijing while retaining traditional allies like Australia. Prime Minister Manasseh Sagvara, who has accused agents of Western powers and shadowy enemies of trying to pull down his government, sounded a more conciliatory tone while launching his bid for the 5th stint as a leader. Vying to tap opportunities offered through China's Belt and Road Initiative, he promised a pragmatic foreign policy that would also maintain relations with Australia, a major donor. Critics have accused the Prime Minister and his party of corruption and using China's political and economic support to secure his grip on power.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We will prioritize national defense and security, as well as trade, while maintaining a pragmatic foreign policy stance. Our party's approach will focus on strengthening relationship with China through a Look North foreign policy, alongside continuing to nurture strong ties with our traditional partners such as Australia. We are committed to being friends to all and enemies to none. We will adopt a selective strategic approach in order to protect our national interests and effectively navigate the complex dynamics of geopolitics and the great power competition between the United States and its allies versus China.
And now to sports stories. Super Eagles captain Ahmed Musa has pleaded with fans to stop the cyber attacks on teammate Alex Iwobi following Nigeria's Africa Cup of Nations final loss to Ivory Coast on Sunday. The Eagles lost 2-1 to hosts Ivory Coast at the Stade Alassane Ouattara, ending the team's pursuit of a 4th continental title. Iwobi, who started all of Nigeria's AFCON games, was in action for 79 minutes before he was taken off for Al-Hassan Yusuf. Immediately after the final whistle, the Fulham midfielder became a subject of stiff criticisms from his fans, and hours later, the 27-year-old was forced to delete photos from his Instagram handle and also locked the comment section for fear of cyber abuse. Reacting to the development, Musa took to his X handle to plead with Nigerians to stop the attacks on the midfielder. Iwobi has previously been on the receiving end of online attacks and the fans after being sent off in a round of 16 loss to Tunisia at the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations. And that's all on the news at this hour. But before we go, let's take a look again at some of the major stories. PDP governors have charged President Tinubu to rise up. Access Holdings named Bolaji Agbede as acting CEO. We also told you that Senegal opposition has kept up pressure ahead of new protest. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen and follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Adebola Adeduba.